Okay, so this is going to be my last one for today, and I'll continue tomorrow, I think. We've got a couple of letters on file, short letters as well, so this is not going to take forever. From This one is from Jonathan Bach, seeking extensions of time. There is another one which is like a joint stipulation. So let's just go through these. Dear Judge Lyman, the remaining Wayfarer parties respectfully submit this letter to raise further concerns about the voluminous overbreadth of Lively's witness and exhibit lists. As the court will see upon receipt of the joint pretrial order, Lively's lists are currently impractical for both pretrial and trial purposes, obscure the witnesses and exhibits the Wayfarer parties will actually have to confront, and create reams of unnecessary work at a time when the parties should be focusing their efforts for trial. As the court may recall, the Wayfarer parties raised concerns by letter of March 25th when Lively was listing in excess of 40 trial witnesses and nearly 1,000 exhibits, which is extremely excessive for one plaintiff. The court set an April 2nd, 2026 conference to address this issue. Hours before that conference, the court issued its ruling on dispositive motions, reducing the number of pending claims from 13 to 3. Under the circumstances, counsel for the Wayfarer party stated at the conference that rather than pressing the issue at that time, they would further meet and confer with Lively's counsel to see if any further narrowing could be achieved in light of the court's ruling. Unfortunately, almost no narrowing has occurred. Even with only 3 remaining claims, Lively still lists more than 40 witnesses and more than 800 exhibits, now accompanied by hundreds of affiliated attachments, far more than can fit within an estimated 15-day trial. Moreover, notwithstanding repeated requests, Lively has refused to identify which attachments she actually intends to present at trial, nor, in the case of numerous video and podcast exhibits, which time-stamped portions she plans to use. To give the court a flavour of what's been happening, Lively identified 68 new exhibits for the first time just after midnight and provided reviewable copies of those documents at approximately 3:40 a.m. this morning. Oh my God. There is no reason these exhibits could not have been identified earlier. Defense counsel are obviously in no position and should not have to review so many new materials at the last minute, especially on a day when they are consumed with numerous other tasks, including finalization of draft jury instructions, Daubert motions, and motions in limine. When Lively's counsel advised yesterday Lively would be identifying dozens of new exhibits, they initially refused to agree to an extension of time for defense counsel to note objections to those exhibits. Wow, this is completely unreasonable. After the call, they offered the Wayfarer parties a two-day period to review them, but only if the Wayfarer parties agreed Lively did not have to identify her new exhibits until next week. Why? When the Wayfarer parties objected to this one-sided proposal, Lively produced the exhibits at the last possible minute. The new exhibits include additional video exhibits without specification of the portions Lively intends to use. Others are summary exhibits, one of which is 54 pages long. That's a fucking joke. Still, others are documents that Lively has had access to all along but chose not to identify at a more convenient time, such as text messages between Lively and various witnesses. Even a brief glance at some of their content suggests little discrimination in terms of what might actually be admissible at trial. They include, for example, a speech Lively made about her husband, Ryan Reynolds' commitment to his family, and pictures of Lively with Taylor Swift. I mean, what the fuck? What? What happened to... She wanted to keep Taylor Swift out of this. Lively also provided additional materials this morning, which her counsel explained after inquiry are intended to be revisions or additional components of previously identified exhibits. These too appear to be of limited relevance or practical value. For instance, they include an article about a Taylor Swift cookie recipe. What? I have seen a lot of noise about this. I didn't realize it was in this letter, but my God. Well, this is important, isn't it? An article about a Taylor Swift cookie recipe that was linked in other correspondence. It is exceptionally unlikely Lively would show such materials or that the jury would gain any insight from them. I was putting it mildly. Counsel for the Wayfarer parties understand that witness and exhibit lists tend to err on the side of being over-inclusive, as counsel are still making final determinations for trial. But there is a difference between over-inclusive lists that nevertheless remain within practical parameters and lists so overly broad as to fluster the other side's ability to anticipate evidence and prepare accordingly. The Wayfarer parties should be permitted to prepare their defences in an orderly way without having to slog through huge amounts of materials and without cumbersome last-minute additions. For the foregoing reasons, the remaining Wayfarer parties respectfully request an order that 1. Grants the Wayfarer parties an additional week to note objections to the 68 exhibits Lively identified only this morning and to prepare any additional motions in limine accordingly. 2. Directs Lively to narrow her witness list, at least to delineate between primary and rebuttal witnesses, and to eliminate those witnesses she does not intend to call at trial. And 3. Directs Lively to narrow her exhibit list to a number of exhibits reasonably suitable for trial, including specification of which documentary attachments she intends to use and of which time-stamped portions of videos or podcasts she intends to use. Fucking hell. That's mad. That's absolutely mad. Let's see what the other one says. Okay, so this one's come from Manat. Dear Judge Lyman, pursuant to Rule 1D of this court's individual rules of civil practice, Plaintiff Blake Lively respectfully submits this letter to inform the court of the parties' agreement following the submissions of Miss Lively's letter regarding Wayfarer Studios, It Ends Well's movie and tag, exchange of pretrial materials and disclosures, and defendant's response thereto. The parties have jointly agreed to extend the deadline to submit designations, objections, and counter-designations pursuant to Federal Rules of Civil Procedure 26A3A and Rule 5A9 of this court's individual practices in civil cases for any of Justin Baldoni, Jamie Heath, Steve Sarowitz, Melissa Nathan, and Jennifer Abel, who defendants have confirmed will testify at trial by deposition rather than live testimony. Oh, okay. I thought Jamie Heath and Justin Baldoni and Melissa Nathan were going to testify live. Okay. The present deadline is April 10th. And the new agreed to deadline is April 15th. Okay. Plaintiff respectfully submits that good cause exists to support such extension to enable parties to meaningfully evaluate, object to, and confer regarding designations for Jennifer Abel and Steve Sarowitz, who defendants only confirmed would be appearing by deposition yesterday on April 9th. This is the first request for such an extension, except as articulated, blah, 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 and the party's next scheduled appearance before this court is April 28th. Miss Lively respectfully requests an order granting this limited, jointly agreed to extension. So this is not anything to do with the letter I just read from Jonathan Back. This is completely separate. Okay. So that's not too much of an issue. Okay, well, that seems all in all then. So those are the two letters for extension of time. That first one was nuts. Who gives a shit about Ryan Reynolds' speech? No, a speech Blake Lively gave about Ryan Reynolds. Who cares about cookies, for God's sake? And given how much she moaned and, did everything she could to prevent Taylor Swift from being dragged into this, why is she sending over pictures of her and Taylor Swift? I don't know. I look forward to seeing the response to it though, because obviously the parties are going to respond within 2 business days to each of these. So, well, no, not to each of them, because the second one is jointly agreed. Lyman will more than likely agree to that because the parties have agreed to it. The first one I read though, there's going to be a response in, I think, by Tuesday. So we'll see what that says.